Hey everyone, this is Miss Time Bunny, and as you can probably tell from the title, today I'm going to be doing probably just a quick video talking about, a lot of rumours that have been bounding around on and off for I think a few months now, and that is about Vince McMahon possibly selling WWE. So from what I can pick up, as I literally just said, because of the amount of names that have been the amount of people, big names that have been released over the last few years, there's been a lot of, I think, rumours going on for at least a good 6 months plus, on and off, that Vince McMahon might be selling the WWE. Maybe not. And I think even people like JR I say JR like everyone knows what I mean. Well, Jim Ross, I should say. Jim Ross, JR. I think he's even speculated maybe. Don't know. But on the flip side of that, a lot of people have been saying that just because a lot of these big names have been released, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's thinking of selling up, because I think there was this whole thing of maybe he's getting rid of a lot of people to sort of make the company look more financially appealing for a buyer. So that I could get, but on the flip side, a lot of people were saying, well, just because he's doing that doesn't mean that he's thinking of selling out. It could be that the new, because he's got a new president and I think chief revenue officer and a new chief financial officer. Their names are Nick Khan and Christina Salen. I think there was other people who were saying it could be them doing it, saying we're spending out a lot of money that we don't really need to. Why have we got 5 people doing this when we could do it with 2 or 1 sort of thing? So they're sort of I suppose, to coin a phrase, cutting the fat. Getting rid of I suppose, unnecessary people to basically save money. Just so it frees up money to then go and maybe do other things, to invest money in this or that, or instead of paying a stupid contract, stupidly priced contract to one person, it's well, we can get rid of them and then use that money to, say, train some youngsters and bring them into the company, sort of thing, to sort of freshen things up, as an example. So, and I just thought, that actually makes sense in a way. It's just because there's been a lot of, people being let go, it doesn't necessarily mean that the company's going to get sold. It might just be they're trying to be a bit more savvy with their money now, especially obviously because of the last sort of year, 18 months. Things have been really awful because of a certain plague that's been going around. Yeah, that's what I call it. I don't call it by the actual C-19 name, I call it the plague. So obviously the WWE probably hasn't been taking as much money, especially as they haven't been able to do house shows and events with audiences there. They've probably had to rely more on the network and merch sales to keep money coming in. So, they've probably lost a massive, great big chunk of their income by not having the ticket sales. So by saying we're going to have to let some bods go, yeah, it sort of makes sense. I mean, I know it was happening before the sort of pandemic was happening, but it was more of a, I think just generally, as I say, it makes sense because it's if you're spending unnecessary money on things, it's going to probably, in the long term, somewhere down the path, it's probably going to come back and bite you in the bum. So it makes sense to sort of let all the sort of, I suppose, unnecessary expenditure sort of go, as it were. Be well, we don't need all these people doing this one thing when we can just do it with 1 or 2 or 3 people instead of having 10 people doing it. We can then free up that money that we were spending on money contracts and then go and do it go and do it. Go and spend it on other things to maybe sort of make the product better and stuff like that. Sorry, I cannot spoken the English today. I think it's because here in the UK at the time of recording we're dealing with very silly temperatures. Well, silly temperatures by our standards. And considering we, like here, we live in houses that don't have aircon as standard, and a lot of workplaces don't have aircon as standard, I think we're all like, our brains are melting. You know, we can't talk, so yes. So yeah, I think just looking at the little bits of information I have, I'm inclined to agree with the people saying that it's not necessarily an indication that he's going to sell because he wants to sort of like get rid of unnecessary spending to make it more financially appealing. It's probably more they've looked at it and gone, well, where can we sort of like make savings so we can free up money to do other gubbins, which is not an unusual thing for companies to do. Because, you know, obviously I've been like management, or I've worked in companies where you kind of have to be a little bit aware of where you're spending money. And as I gave the example of like, why have say like 5 or 10 people doing one thing when you can do it with say 2 or 3 max, you know? You don't necessarily need all those extra people doing the same thing if that smaller group's more than capable of doing it. And then it frees up like some extra income to say like sink it into this or to that, or to hire someone to do another thing that you need to get sorted out, you know. So I think it's going to be a case of, you know, I'm going to keep an eye on the situation, see if any more like info comes out, if at all, and if need be, do an update video, maybe just talking a little bit more about stuff and things. But this was a quick thing, giving my opinion of like what I reckon's going on and who I'm inclined to agree with, if at all. So yes, I've got my trusty notebook here. I've been doodling notes over the last few days of like, right, what's going on? Oh, getting hiccups at the wrong possible time. But yeah, by all means do share any comments, info, etc. in the comments, because if there's anything that's like maybe I can work with, I might just do a bit of an update. So, but on that note, I'm going to end here. I know this is like not that long, but it's more of a get my opinions out there quickly. And I will see everyone in the next video.